Welcome everyone to a journey inside some of the most forbidding places on Earth. We're going to be taking a look at prisons, but not just any prisons. These are the institutions where even the most hardened criminals fear to tread. These facilities are notorious for their extreme conditions and violent inmates, places where every day is a struggle for survival and hope can seem like a distant memory. Join me as we venture behind these walls to confront the harsh realities of life inside the world's most dangerous prisons. Our first stop takes us to South America, to Venezuela, a country grappling with political turmoil and economic hardship. It's within this already volatile environment that we find La Sabaneta, a prison so chaotic, so brutal, that it makes the word prison seem almost inadequate. La Sabaneta is overcrowded. That much is clear from even a cursory glance. But it's the sheer density of humanity packed into these walls that really strikes you. Thousands of inmates are housed in conditions that can only be described as squalid. Disease is rife, basic sanitation is practically non-existent, and violence is not just commonplace, it's a way of life. The guards, often outnumbered and outgunned, struggle to maintain even a semblance of control. Within La Sabaneta, gangs rule. They control the flow of drugs, they dictate the terms of survival, and they mete out their own brand of justice. It's a place where the line between inmate and guard, between order and chaos, blurs almost beyond recognition. I remember speaking to one inmate, a man who looked older than his years, his eyes holding a weary wisdom. He told me that inside La Sabaneta, you have to become an animal to survive. You have to be willing to do things you never thought possible. And the violence, it's something that's hard to shake off. I've witnessed my fair share of aggression, but the rawness, the brutality within La Sabaneta, it stays with you. It gets under your skin. One incident that stands out was a riot that broke out while we were filming. It began with a dispute between rival gangs, a disagreement over something as trivial as drugs or territory, but it quickly escalated into a full-blown confrontation. The air was thick with the smell of tear gas and fear, the sound of metal clanging against metal, the screams of both the injured and the enraged. It was a cacophony of chaos that felt like it would never end. We were fortunate enough to escape unharmed, but the experience left an indelible mark. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life within these walls, of the constant threat of violence that hangs heavy in the air. Leaving La Sabaneta, you can't help but feel a sense of relief, of gratitude for the freedom you take for granted. But there's also a lingering unease, a knowledge that for those left behind, the struggle continues. From the chaos of South America, we journey north to the frozen steppes of Siberia, where Russia houses its most dangerous criminals in a place called Black Dolphin Prison. The name itself conjures images of something cold, unforgiving, and inescapable. And believe me, this prison lives up to its name. Black Dolphin is a place of stark contrasts. The pristine snow that blankets the landscape for much of the year belies the darkness that resides within the prison walls. Here, some of Russia's most notorious criminals, serial killers, terrorists, mafia bosses, are kept in a state of almost perpetual isolation. The regime at Black Dolphin is one of strict control and sensory deprivation. Inmates spend 23 hours a day confined to their cells, small, cramped spaces that offer little respite from the monotony of their existence. When they are allowed out, it's for a brief exercise period in a cage just large enough to pace back and forth. Human contact is minimal, with guards communicating with inmates through feeding slots in the cell doors. Even movement within the prison is tightly controlled. Inmates are blindfolded whenever they are moved, disoriented, unable to memorize the prison layout. It's a psychological tactic designed to break them, to crush any hope of escape. I had the opportunity to speak to one of the guards, a man who had spent over a decade working within Black Dolphin's walls. He spoke with a chilling matter-of-factness about the prison and its inhabitants. To him, these men were not human beings but monsters, creatures that needed to be kept caged for the safety of society. And perhaps he's right. The crimes committed by the men inside Black Dolphin are truly horrific, the stuff of nightmares. But even monsters are still human, capable of experiencing emotions, however twisted they may be. One inmate I spoke with, a former hitman for the Russian mafia, he told me that the worst thing about Black Dolphin wasn't the physical confinement, but the silence. It was a silence that seeped into your soul, that gnawed at the edges of your sanity. Black Dolphin is a place that leaves you questioning the very nature of punishment, the fine line between justice and vengeance. It's a stark reminder of the capacity for darkness that exists within us all. Our exploration of the world's toughest prisons brings us now to the United States, to a place many consider the most secure prison ever built. ADX Florence, also known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Located in the desolate high desert of Colorado, ADX Florence is a monument to concrete and steel. It houses the worst of the worst, inmates deemed too dangerous, too high profile, or too great a security risk for even a maximum security prison. We're talking terrorists, gang leaders, spies, men who have committed unspeakable acts and who pose a constant threat, even within the confines of a prison. Men like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and Ramzi Youssef, the mastermind behind the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Life inside ADX Florence is one of extreme isolation. Inmates spend 23 hours a day locked in their cells, soundproofed concrete and steel boxes designed to minimize human contact. The cells are Spartan, furnished with a concrete bed, a toilet that can be shut off remotely, and a combination sink and toilet. Natural light is a luxury. Instead, a single fluorescent bulb provides the only illumination. The level of control here is extraordinary. Meals are passed through slots in the cell doors, exercise is limited to an hour a day in a small concrete enclosure, open to the sky but caged in on all sides. Human contact is strictly regulated. Inmates have limited access to phone calls and visits, all carefully monitored. Even communication between cells is virtually impossible. The psychological impact of this kind of isolation is profound. Deprived of meaningful human contact, of sensory stimulation, many inmates at ADX Florence struggle to maintain their grip on sanity. Some retreat into themselves, their minds becoming their own worst prisons. Others lash out, their anger and frustration finding an outlet in violence, directed at themselves, at the guards, at anyone or anything within reach. ADX Florence is a place that raises profound questions about the limits of punishment. Is it possible to rehabilitate someone under these conditions, or are we simply warehousing them, breaking their spirits, turning them into ghosts haunting their own concrete tombs? Our next stop takes us back to South America, to Brazil, to the notorious Carandiru Penitentiary, a place synonymous with brutality, overcrowding, and one of the deadliest prison massacres in history. Now, Carandiru no longer stands, demolished in 2002, but its legacy continues to cast a long shadow over Brazil's prison system. At its peak, Carandiru housed over 8,000 inmates, despite having a capacity of just 3,500. The overcrowding was unimaginable, with inmates crammed into cells meant for a fraction of their number. Sanitation was non-existent, disease was rampant, and violence was a constant threat. What made Carandiru particularly notorious was the lack of control the authorities had over the prison. Large portions of the prison were essentially ruled by gangs, who dictated the terms of daily life within their domain. The guards, often corrupt and poorly trained, were reluctant to enter these areas, fearing for their own safety. This created a power vacuum, which the gangs were only too happy to fill. In 1992, this volatile mix of overcrowding, gang violence, and official negligence culminated in the Carandiru massacre. What began as a fight between rival gangs quickly spiraled out of control, engulfing the entire prison. The guards, overwhelmed and outgunned, retreated, leaving the inmates to their own devices. For hours, Carandiru was a scene of unimaginable carnage, as rival gangs battled each other with makeshift weapons, knives, clubs, anything they could get their hands on. By the time the police stormed the prison, restoring order with brutal efficiency, 111 inmates lay dead, most shot at close range. The Carandiru massacre sent shockwaves through Brazil and the world, exposing the brutal reality of the country's overcrowded and mismanaged prison system. While Carandiru no longer stands, it serves as a chilling reminder of the human cost of neglecting the basic rights and dignity of those incarcerated. Our final destination takes us to Southeast Asia, to Thailand, to a prison known as Bang Kwang Central Prison, or as it's more infamously nicknamed, the Bangkok Hilton. This is a place where sentences are long, conditions are harsh, and escape is but a distant dream. Bang Kwang is a maximum security prison that houses both Thai and foreign inmates convicted of serious crimes, from drug trafficking to murder. Life here is brutal. The heat is stifling, the air thick with humidity. The cells are cramped and basic, offering little respite from the oppressive environment. Food is scarce and poor quality, sanitation is rudimentary at best, and disease is a constant threat. Inmates are often shackled for extended periods, a heavy chain permanently bound to their ankles, a constant reminder of their confinement. One of the things that sets Bang Kwang apart is the psychological toll it takes on its inmates. The Thai justice system is notoriously harsh, with long sentences handed down even for relatively minor offenses. Many foreign inmates find themselves incarcerated in Bang Kwang, far from home, their families unable to afford to visit. This sense of isolation, the crushing weight of an indefinite future, can be devastating. I remember speaking to one inmate, an Australian man convicted of drug smuggling. He had been in Bang Kwang for over a decade, and the despair was etched on his face. He told me that the worst thing was the endlessness of it all, the knowledge that each day would be the same as the last, a monotonous cycle of heat, hunger, and hopelessness. Another aspect of Bang Kwang that weighs heavily on the inmates is the death penalty. Thailand still practices capital punishment, and executions are carried out by lethal injection within the prison walls. The condemned men are held in a separate wing, living under the shadow of their impending execution. The psychological toll this takes on them, the constant anticipation of death, is unimaginable. Bang Kwang is a place of stark contrasts, where moments of unexpected humanity can emerge from the darkness. The inmates, despite their circumstances, often form strong bonds of camaraderie, supporting each other through the toughest of times. There is a sense of community within these walls, a shared understanding of the hardships they face. But even these glimmers of hope can't fully penetrate the grim reality of life inside the Bangkok Hilton. Thanks for watching our countdown of the world's most dangerous prisons. These institutions, each in its own way, offer a glimpse into the darker side of humanity, the consequences of poverty, inequality, and the human capacity for both cruelty and resilience. These prisons, as different as they are, share a common thread. They are places of confinement, of punishment, but also of profound human stories. Stories of despair and hope, of brutality and compassion, of the struggle for survival in the face of overwhelming odds. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more intriguing content. And next time you think about the word prison, remember the faces, the stories, the human beings who inhabit these places, for they are a reflection of us all.